Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. This is Josh with the Built to Last podcast. And today, our guest, Diane Morris, U.S. Health Advisor. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
So excited to have you here. You got us taken care of, my family taken care of, when Tanya made the move to come work for us. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. But why don't you tell us what got you into this? What got you into health insurance?
Okay, so years ago, I was one of those people that liked changing careers pretty often. And I had been in sales for roughly 20 years, had maybe shifted into 3 different careers, made 3 different companies, a lot of money. But each time I would get really bored and I wanted to be challenged, want something different. So then I'd go to the next thing. So finally I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm ready to jump ship again. I want to do something else, but I want to do something that has meaning. I want to feel like I'm making a difference, helping people. I don't know what it is. And so I just started searching and looking. And the next thing I went to an interview with U.S. Health Advisors. And that was like 2 years after like Obamacare had rolled out. And I thought, man, people are always going to need health insurance. And I really feel like I can help a lot of people at least, get the right plan.
Yeah. And so you got to that give back part of your career,
Absolutely.
Right? You're like, hey, I want to get into something that's not just making me money,
right,
but I can start giving back to the community.
100%.
That's awesome. So we've known each other a few years now.
Yeah.
And there's a rumor about a song that I've heard. What is that story, if you don't mind sharing? Because this is hilarious.
This is
awesome.
This is a rumor. Back in 1980, the song Jack and Diane came out, and I was going to Indiana State University, and at the time, we called him John Mellencamp. His sister was one of the RAs in the building that I was stayed in or lived in. So he would come to the university. We saw him. He was very well known even back then in Indiana. Everybody loved him. Sure. And so legend has it that this song, I had something to do with the Jack and Diane song, but I have 4 daughters. I'm not saying a whole lot, but I was never in the back seat of anybody's car. Let me just say that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, you kind of mentioned it, Obamacare, right? So when me and you met, and with Tanya and my wife, it was, we didn't know what to do because she was leaving her job. We're a small business owner. We don't have, it's not like we make a ripping ton of money where, health insurance is expensive.
So expensive.
It's crazy.
It's usually the number one cost for an employer.
Yeah. So when we started looking, I know you shopped that, you shopped other stuff for us, but what brought on Obamacare? Walk us through that, or whatever it's called today.
Sure. So it has all these different names, and it doesn't matter who you're voting for or don't vote for. There's nothing political in this. I'm just saying originally it rolled out as Obamacare because Obama was president at the time. And at the time, 2010, there were people that had pretty significant pre-existing conditions. They could not get health insurance. And I can't even imagine what these poor families were going through, whether it was for a child maybe that was born with something or for themselves. They had stroke, heart attack, whatever the heck was going on. They literally could not get health insurance. And I just can't imagine what that must have been like for them. So the whole purpose of Obamacare rolling out, and it's called the Affordable Care Act, Essential Health Benefit Plans. It has all these different names, marketplace insurance, but it's all the same thing. They said you can no longer, disqualify people because they have a pre-existing condition. You have to take them, which was fabulous. So people say that I've met over the years, I've been doing this for a little over 10 years, that was either the best thing that ever happened to them or the worst thing that ever happened to them. And I get why it would be the best thing if you couldn't get insurance and now you can, how wonderful that is. However, on the flip side of that, somebody has to pay for all of that. So everybody's rates went up significantly. Yeah. And that's where it became a little bit of a rub and became difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people need health insurance these days.
Yes.
The costs are insane. You've shared some statistics in the past, and a week in the ICU, you said it's $1 million or something like that. Is that right?
I'm sorry.
A week in the ICU is $1 million. It could be $1 million.
Yeah, today it is. And that kind of the super, super, super expensive and intensive care unit. I feel like a lot of that was going on when COVID hit, because I remember seeing, I think it was on like 60 Minutes, a program where this man, he was admitted into ICU, and 4 weeks later, he sadly passed away, and then his widow received a bill for over $4 million.
That's insane.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't imagine that. But it's really, it's a broken system. They're still working on it. You know, it's regulated by the state. So every state has different rules too, and what they allow. Oh, let me back up. Obamacare is federal. But then each state governs their own, what they allow in, what they don't allow, certain plans, and they regulate, and just like they regulate us, and we have to do continuing education every 2 years, and you know, you have to be certified, all these different things. But it's still a broken system that needs to be fixed. It's health insurance is usually the second biggest cost for families, with mortgage being first.
And what's crazy to me is that if you don't have $4 million, because who does? Like, not a lot of people have $4 million sitting around. Is that money is it's just going to sit there. It's going to sit there as a debt. It's not going to get paid. Right. Eventually, the government's going to probably write it off at some point, I would imagine. But this poor widower is sitting there with a bill that's probably stressing her out after she lost her husband.
Yes.
And that's just insanity to me.
It is.
And it's I realize it's a necessity because it terrifies me, right? To think if something happened to me, my wife would be left with a bill like that. So what are things that people need to know about their policies to help protect them with those type of things?
That's a great question. Thank you. I will say, and you can Google this, at least for the last decade, 6 out of 10 bankruptcies are because people, a medical situation came up and either they did not have insurance, health insurance, or they had the wrong type of insurance. And a lot of times people don't know. If you don't know what questions to ask, you don't know. And if you buy the wrong plan, it can cost you everything. Yeah. And that's really sad. And unfortunately, people selling these, quote, I don't even want to give them a name, but maybe plans that only go to $1 million or $2 million, you don't know that when you're buying it. You're shopping, you're trying to get a good cost. And meanwhile, you end up buying a plan that's not going to cover you for the full extent of whatever your coverage or whatever your medical situation is. So 4 things I always tell people, even if I never talk with them again, and if anybody listening, just write these 4 things down or just make note of it. If you know the answer to these 4 things, I promise you'll never file bankruptcy. You know, you'll protect yourself and your family and your loved ones. But you always want to know, like, what is the network of the plan? So you hear the term like PPO or HMO. There's POS, there's EPO, there's all these different ones. Well, PPO is usually, I give it the nickname as people prefer that because it'll cover a much greater coverage area. So like, for instance, an HMO, usually it's only in your county and a couple surrounding counties, maybe in your state. But if you travel outside of your state and something happens to you, that's on you, unless it's life-threatening. But all those costs would be on you. And that can add up very quickly. As
a car accident or something like that?
Yeah, if it's not life-threatening,
yeah,
it's I know. It's really scary to think that. So PPO, if you can, but not everybody can. You know, you have to do whatever your budget allows. But find out what the network is. So that's important. And then you always also you want to know, what is the deductible? Because the deductible, you typically have to pay that deductible in full first before the plan is going to kick in and pay anything. So that gives you an idea of what's going to cost you per person on this plan, just to have those numbers in your head to know. Because some deductibles are $1,500 and some are $9,000 or greater. And it's important to know that. You want to know the annual amount that plan will pay. So some plans will, again, only pay up to $1 million or $2 million, which people think, oh, that's plenty of insurance. No, it's not. It
sounds like so much money, though. Every time you say that, I'm like, that's a lot of money.
I know.
It is.
It is, unless.
Yeah.
So if you go in intensive care, that could be gone in 2 weeks. And then once that ends, because I know somebody this happened to, as soon as they get you stable, the hospital, because they don't run on love, they have bills too they have to pay, they will then release you to state care, which is really, really scary. So you really want to make sure you know that you have unlimited coverage. There's no cap on the amount that it will pay. And then lastly, what's going to cost you out of your pocket.
Yeah.
So out-of-pocket maximum is a big number. And on plans, they get a little tricky with it sometimes. Sometimes it'll say unlimited. Unlimited means it's unlimited to your pocket that could cost.
Oh, that's not a good unlimited.
No, that's not a good unlimited. That one's really scary. That out-of-pocket maximum has to have a number on it to protect yourself as best you can.
Yeah. So in that, you don't want to have an out-of-pocket maximum of $100,000 and then, that's what you got to pay.
Right.
That's crazy to me. So the different things that happen throughout life, heart attacks, those types of things, right? Are there numbers like statistics like say, hey, the average heart attack or double bypass cost blank, right?
Yeah.
So what are those and what are some of the, it's just, I want to give the viewers ideas of how quickly $1 million goes besides the ICU.
Okay.
Right?
So, and it's hard for me to say exactly because every city is different too in every area. I'm licensed in 19 states, but they're all very different. But I'll give an example of like a stroke. I know 2 people that had a stroke and they were on one of the Christian ministry type plans. And if you go on their homepage, it says this is not real health insurance. It says it usually on the homepage at the very bottom, which means they do not have to pay their claims. And there's a good time and a bad time for those plans. But 2 people that I know both had strokes. One was $400,000 and one was $600,000, and both families ended up filing for bankruptcy. It's really expensive to be sick.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
really expensive.
And COVID, I feel like COVID drove some of those prices up.
100% it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we've shared with you this before, but I believe my dad might be on one of those Christian or was on one of those Christian ministry plans at one point. And I was talking to him about he had a hip replacement. Hey, Dad, by the way. He had a hip replacement. He's like, yeah, they paid for it. And then they paid for the next one. It was no big deal. And I was like, that's great. And then you and I talked, and I'm like, no, I'm terrified of that, right? Because I'm at a different point in my life, right? He's retired. He's, we're at a different point. We're more active. We're doing a lot of things. But talk about those, like go a little deeper into that Christian ministry thing, because it is somewhat deceiving when you go on their website.
It is somewhat deceiving. And I've heard people have good situations with those plans too. So everything is different. I don't know. I know they get together and they decide who they're going to pay for and who they're not going to pay for and how it's going to work. But like real health insurance, they need like $1 billion to be able to pay all their claims. And that's why when you look at these smaller companies that have these quote health insurance, they don't have that kind of money. They can't possibly pay for everybody. It's just not going to happen. So you're taking a real risk. And everybody's situation is different. And sometimes, I will say this though, sometimes when you go to the hospital, let's say there is an emergency and you bought a plan and maybe it's a Christian ministry plan or something, it does look better in good faith that you did try to have health insurance, even if it's not the kind that maybe they would like to see. So you do get treated a little bit better versus going in and say, I have nothing. Yeah. That doesn't, it makes it harder. I also know another situation, a young man did not have health insurance, went to the ER, they ran a bunch of tests, thought everything was, they saw nothing. He went home and he died that night by himself, in his apartment.
Holy cow.
That should not happen here in the United States.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't happen anywhere, but especially not here. It's very, very sad. Yeah. So sometimes too, we all have different budgets, but I would say, try as best you can to protect your family, because it can cost you everything.
Yeah, and the healthcare system in the U.S., let's dig into that a little bit as much as we can, as compared to other countries. So you always see these things pop up on TikTok or Facebook or whatever. You go to Norway or wherever it is, and it's best healthcare, you don't pay anything. Well, BS, one, you do pay because they pay 40% in taxes.
Exactly.
Right? So it's paid somewhere. But the cost is significantly higher for a lot of things here in the U.S.
It is. But we don't pay 40% in taxes.
Correct, yeah.
And I think if you start looking at that, which I don't know if it'll get to that or not, but that's why they have better health insurance. Though sometimes it looks better. Certain countries are different.
Sure.
And it's not. I know a story of a lady from Canada. She was I knew her son very well, and they could not figure out what was going on and ran test, nothing. And they kind of gave up on her. he brought her here to the U.S. because he was living here, and they did find what was going on, and it literally saved her life. She went from being quite a bit overweight. She was down to like 80 pounds and truly near death. And then
Wow.
she was saved by coming here. So, I mean,
There's good doctors and bad doctors. Doesn't matter what country you're in.
it
right?
doesn't.
It really
There's
doesn't.
every industry, there's good and bad.
Yeah.
Including health insurance people.
Yeah.
I mean, every industry there is good and bad.
And then, prescription drugs, right? A big part of healthcare is our daily maintenance and, things that we have to help keep us healthy, if you will, right? And those costs are significantly different from what I've seen. That's just me going to Mexico, right? So you go to Mexico, you walk in a pharmacy and you buy, I was on acid reflux for Barrett's a while back, and I could buy it there for a third of what was covered under my insurance here. And
it's crazy. But we know Big Pharma controls a lot.
Yeah.
But I will say this, if anybody out there, if you ever need to fill a prescription, always, always, always check GoodRx before you buy it, because that is one thing I tell people every single day. It's much more known today than it was 10 years ago, but even today, still, I save people money. You go on goodrx.com, you put in your zip code, you list what prescriptions you're about to fill, and it will tell you who has it for the best price in your area. And what I didn't know at the time, but the big box places are usually the cheapest to get prescriptions filled, like people that sell groceries, we say like milk and bread. And it's because they're making money off the groceries and they're just trying to make it convenient for you. And that's why they do the prescriptions. But it was the two most expensive places used to be Walgreens and CVS, the drugstores. I don't know, that may have changed a little bit since then because I have seen prices come down, but every prescription's different. Every city has a different rate. I mean, it's just crazy how it's all so different.
And when you're shopping the insurance, that's something you need to make sure you pay attention to as well, I imagine.
Yes, but a lot of the companies offer the same kind of insurance protection coverage for prescriptions. You're the cheapest way for any person out there to get insurance is group insurance through your employer or through a employer. That's always the cheapest way to get it, and usually that's offers the best deductibles and all of those things, because they can't put anybody through any kind of underwriting. They have to give everybody the same situation, and it's usually your employer pays anywhere from 30 to 70%. And then you pay what's the difference of that. So that's always the best way to get insurance, is find a job that offers it. And a lot of times people, I'm finding this with 50 and older, they're wanting to switch occupations, but they can't because that insurance is so good and it's so expensive if they were to get it on their own.
Yeah.
So the older we get, the more expensive it gets.
And it was almost a defining factor in bringing Tanya on. It was crazy how much that was, right? Because she made good money at her last job, but we really needed the support here. The business has been growing, and we needed the support here. And it was crazy how much we had to have the conversation about what that cost was. It went into our budget. It tripled.
Absolutely.
Just for us to self-pay, it tripled from what she was getting on her group plan with her previous employer.
Sadly, a lot of people don't realize that, and they don't factor that in before, and they'll jump ship, they resign, go with another company. And I have people call me all the time saying, this company doesn't offer health insurance. What do I need to do? And I tell them the numbers, they're pretty shocked.
Yeah. And then Cobra, that's insane.
Oh, Cobra's the worst.
It's like the biggest scam in the world to me. I don't know why,
I
but
don't
it
think
is.
the companies want you to be on the insurance. And plus, it's also because the employer's not paying in on the plan anymore.
Yeah.
It's always at least double what you're paying. Sometimes it's triple what you're paying.
Yeah, I had it when I was leaving a retailer, and they sent me, what it would be if I wanted to stay on Cobra, and it went from like $200 a month to like $1,400, and I was like, "You got to be insane!"
Oh, that's
and I was
crazy.
young and pretty healthy back then
Yeah,
too.
that is
I
crazy.
was like, "Come on!"
I think they were trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, that's all it was.
I mean, that's crazy. The time when that would be helpful is if you're in the middle of like a treatment, cancer treatment or something, and you don't want it to end.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
There's times. It's great. There's all of it. There's a time and place for all of it, honestly.
So
I will say a lot of young people think that their car insurance will protect them. It does not. I mean, it might protect you up to $100,000 or maybe $500,000 at most, but that's usually it, if that amount. But you guys, if anything happens to you in a car, because again, I've seen several situations where this has happened, where a person, bad car accident, they're now in the hospital on a ventilator, learning to swallow and talk and walk and eat, all those things. That costs tens of millions of dollars and takes months of work. So you need a health insurance plan that could protect you for that.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Diane, is there anything else you think consumers should know? It's not, I mean, we covered a lot.
I do. I feel like we covered all of it. I'll probably think of something once I leave it. I really feel like I gave you the stuff for somebody to really think about. They're welcome to contact me. I can't tell you. I look over people's plans all the time. And many times I'll say, you know what? You've got something really good here. Stay right where you are. I would not change it. I have told many people that over the years, and I will continue to. I want to do what is best for them. When I talk to anybody, I literally talk to you as though you're a part of my family, whether it's a sister, brother, niece, nephew. I want to protect people as best as I can in their budget, and know that at the end of the day, nothing bad, if anything bad happens, we've got them covered.
And you can't have a clear conscience in what you do every day if you don't do that.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason you wrote our insurance.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And
really
this is why I'm in this industry, to make a difference. I can't write everybody that I speak with, but I can at least get them pointed in the right direction and get them talking to somebody that I know and trust, because there are, unfortunately, shady people out there.
Very true. Well, Diane, thank you for coming out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on all the socials, and I look forward to seeing you next week.